So vertex displacement maps in latest build of Nomad. So this is my latest attempt. It's not bad. I think things to kind of note is that you can see that as I sort of play with the strength, it's not just sort of pulling straight up from the surface, but it's trying to sort of pull in detail from kind of surrounding polygons. Just that's probably vague. It just looks like a weird sort of blobby mess, but this will make more sense as I show how I built this. So let's start from scratch. Let's go File New, and yep. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the default sphere for the moment, and we're going to this time pull in one of the presets. So we're going to go with the standard Blender sculpting heads. So go Open, and yep. And we're going to use this as a base to sculpt our ear. So the other thing we need is a plane. So we're going to go to the plane tool, and if this is the target, then we have to get the head sort of almost ready for surgery, if you will. So I'm going to get rid of all the bits that we don't need and just keep the head. Strictly speaking, I could maybe delete the rest of the head, but I'm lazy. I'm just going to work in a hurry. What I will do, though, is I will get the pivot aligned onto the ear so that as I sort of like try and move and scale this, it's all relative to the ear. So that's probably a bit more useful. Okay, so going to line them aside like this and scale it up and put them under my plane. The other thing I found useful was to just fill the head with a color just so I can sort of see where this is poking through and just get a sense of how well I'm kind of separating the ear from the rest of the head. Like I said, you probably should delete the entire head first apart from the ear, but I'm this much lazy and I'm trying to work in a hurry. So let's say this is kind of what I want. Just one last adjustment. I will rotate that so it's sort of flat, so it's kind of aligned to the vertical axis of the plane. I have to stop touching this. Come on, stop. There we are. Good. A little bit bigger, like that. Okay, cool. All right, so this is our target. So now I'm going to go back to the plane. I'll validate it so I can sculpt on it. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the outer border so that I don't touch it. So you've got this great new border button in the mask tool. So that's now safe. And I'm going to make a layer, partially because it helps to keep the base shape safe, but also it's useful as you're building this vertex displacement map to see where you're going from and where you're going to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on symmetry because it's not a symmetrical shape, and just try and match the volume as best I can. So I'm not going to be too careful with it. Just going to blob this up and roughly into the right zone, like that. Just make sure it's kind of covering everything. Then I will try the first attempt at just trying to almost like sort of get the underhang, so the back of the ear. So I might use a crease tool with a really wide brush just to sort of try and force that back a little bit, and I'll smooth it back, crease again, just so it starts to conform to the ear shape a little more. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm going to use a lot of smoothing just to sort of keep this very gestural. And the last thing I'll do is a little bit of inflate just to try and, I guess, capture this the top of the ear lobe itself, the outer shell. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to project the plane onto the smooth that back as well. That should not be there. In fact, I'm going to delete layer on that so that this all conforms back to where that should be. There we are. This is another really handy reason to use a layer. Okay, so let's say that's all kind of correct. So I now want to project this back onto the ear, but I also want to make sure that none of this flat part projects onto the head, because if I just project it now like this, you'll see that the entire plane projects down, which is not useful. So I'm sure people who are good at ZBrush, or sorry, Nomad, are screaming at me saying there's a better way, but I'm just quickly masking, just using the mask brush, just so I say this part, don't touch it, like that. Okay, So now I'm going to project this. So go to these tools up here and go to reproject. And we get a first pass terrible thing, but if you look at that in Solo, it has sort of captured most of the shape. But what you can also see is that it's getting very stretchy through here where there's lots of detail. But more importantly, you can see that we have all this sort of detail out here that's just going unused. We should try and make use of that. So I'm going to clear the mask, put the border back on, and I'm just going to run a very light smooth to start with, just to sort of calm down the worst of the stretching. And this time I'm going to use the nudge brush to see if I can sort of pull some of this unused detail into where it needs to be. So if you think of it, like if I were to kind of do this morphing back and forth, you can see that this is mainly growing just from directly under the ear. But so remember what that looks like. And then I'm going to try and I'm going to drag some of this outer detail into here where it needs to be, and then I'll do the same slide back and forth, and you'll see how that makes better use of all this resolution. So I'm going to find the nudge brush, and I'm just going to start to pull in some of this stuff into where it needs to be, because we need lots of detail through the middle of this ear, but we don't need it out here. So this can all get quite stretchy. And what this will look like later on when we use it as a vertex displacement brush, as a vertex displacement map, is you'll get sort of polygons from out here sort of flowing and sucking into the ear, which I think is what we want. So I'm going to now try and pull some of this stuff through. So again, just trying to redistribute the polygons as best we can to where they need to be. A side effect of the nudge brush is it does sort of soften off detail. So as soon as I turn off Solo, you can see that it's all wallowed beneath the surface, but that's okay, because now we've got enough detail that when we use the inflate brush again, it's kind of sitting where it needs to be, which is nice. So again, just going to try and flood, kind of inflate so that we're capturing most of what we need to capture, so that it's all on the outside of the mesh. A little bit of a smooth. So just a combination of smooth, inflate, and move, just to kind of try and nudge this all around. Let's try and smooth that back a bit and then inflate. Let's say that's good enough. Again, we'll mask off the bits that should stay protected. The analogy I was thinking of with all this is when traditional sort of VFX sculptors, special effects clay artists would be making like stamp tools for doing skin pores. They'd spend a lot of time in them because they knew that they would get loads of reuse. It's kind of funny knowing that for digital sculpting we just buy packs of 800 ZBrush alphas. This feels like it's kind of a return to the more time you spend here being careful with this, the better your vertex displacement map will be. So let's do a reproject. So it's all quite stretchy, but if I solo it, you can see that now this is capturing much better. We're still getting a lot of stretching through here. But I suspect if I just run like a tiny bit of smooth, it probably won't be too bad. So you can see that this is the pattern. So now that that's not looking too bad, I'll just I'll clear the mask, pin the border, try and tidy up all this stuff, because this you'll see all this kind of stretching. So if you have like sort of these kind of stretch marks and tide marks, you'll see it in the final thing. Arguably, you can smooth out anything given enough time. But I'm just going to do one more project. I'm just going to see if I can get a little more of this detail through into this hole. So I'm going to nudge this way. What I might do, do a bit of a move brush to see if I can pull this down into the bottom of the ear canal, just so it kind of has the best possible chance of projecting down to where that needs to be projected. Let's say like that. Cool. I promise I'll make this the last project. Cool. Nomad is pretty good about picking the best projection direction, but I just like to be careful and just do like where I can see there's kind of outward shapes and inward shapes, just to help it as much as I can. So I'll just do a little bit of an extra inflate through here and do one last mask. I mean, what I can do is just mask the inside of it and then reverse. That's probably the easier way. That's got most of it. Yep. And invert and make sure to get the border. Okay, last reproject. solo, clear the mask, do one last smooth, and let's say this is good enough. I'm going to stop playing, but I mean, honestly, I would just keep doing this back and forth. The other thing that I didn't actually, okay, I'll do one more time, which is to do it with a subdivive. So we've got a bit more detail. I mean, don't forget that with the projection, what it's going to do is it's converting it into a 512 by 512 pixel map. So you've got quite a lot of detail to play with. So you may as well subdivide and give it as much chance for success as you can. So got that all filled in. Oops. Oh, come on. There we are. Pin the border again. Whoops, no, I'll invert. And the border is pinned. Excellent. One last projection. Cool. And then clear the border, clear the mask. One last thing, turn off the wireframe. So let's say, I mean, this is terrible, but let's say this is kind of good enough for our needs. But that's kind of it, really. So, now that this is kind of doing what we want, and again, if we do the thing that I promised before of doing the slide, you can see how we're making more effective use of these regions out here that would have otherwise just been unused. So now if I do the bake to VDM, so bake, we'll call this here shoot 2, because this is the second time I recorded, the first time broke. So that's now done. So now I can hide the plane, I'll make a sphere, I'll validate it, give it a lot of divisions, because we need it. So by default, Nomad will have the vertex tool selected and your newly baked VDM selected. So I can just drag that out, and if you press and hold, you can see that you get these controls. So this is, let's see, where's my front? I'm just looking at the view cube. Oh, front, okay. So I put it in the wrong place, but that's fine because we can just drag it around. I can rotate it with this handle, yep. So that is on the wrong side. Ha, funny. So I might redraw it. The hell, I'll just do it this way. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's this way. No, that's upside down. I find it really hard to understand which way is up and which way is down with these things. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, cool. So you can change the radius, you can change the strength of it, and this is the point that I wanted to make. If you slide the intensity from 0 to 100, you see how it's kind of pulling in from other regions into the ear where the detail needs to be. So that's kind of the tutorial. If you have any questions, shout in the forum or in the comments. Yeah, that's in here. Okay, bye.